What's going on, YouTube? Let's talk Civil War real quick, bro. This is, one of the obviously more crazy subjects, but I'm torn because this ranges in my mind from the most fun subject to sit around in the house with your boys, bullshitting around about how you'd handle the Civil War, the zombie apocalypse, shit like that, to like, I don't know. I guess there's some people out here that really think it's a possibility. My gut reaction is no. There's no fucking shot. I'll explain why I think that here in a second. But it's not like an uncommon thing. America's a little different than a bunch of other countries just because we've actually had one, and the country lasted afterwards. I guess. Well, the side that won. A bunch of the base principles stayed, but. It's still I don't know, in essence the same country in a lot of ways. We can get into that some other video, but it's a weird dynamic since the United States has already had one civil war, and it was not really that long ago in the overall timeline of things. But apparently it's like a new hot subject that people are talking about, worrying about that happening again, basically. Obviously, this time around, it'd be a little bit of a different reason. I don't want to go into the reasons of the original Civil War, but I think most people would just come out and say stuff like they're either going to hit you with slavery or states' rights or some shit like that. And it's like, I think it was mostly slavery was the pushing issue, and then there's obviously some other reasons and problems that were interwoven in there. It's not that simple. It's a little more gray than it is black and white like that, but that's for another video some other time. But people are enthralled by this idea, I guess, just because it's so crazy. It would obviously be horrible if you're a person out there that's like I said, if you're sitting around with your boys bullshitting around and you're thinking about how cool a civil war would be, like to go do it like along the lines of like zombie apocalypse shit like that, survival scenario, whatever, that's fine if you're bullshitting around. But if there's, I don't know how many people there are that are out there that are like actually like, dude, we need a civil war. That's what we need to fix the country. It's like, dude, you're not going to last fucking a month if that happens. Most people are not going to. There's going to be so many people that would just die immediately. And most of the people I think that are got their Twitter fingers going bullshitting about how it's a good idea, actually thinking that it is, wouldn't last a month, let alone a couple days. Maybe they might die in the first couple days depending on where they're at. But this idea is like, I guess maybe it's permeated American culture because we've already had a civil war. It's in video games. I don't know any recent video games, but it's definitely in some older video games. Surprised they haven't made a newer video game that would show like a modern civil war. I don't know, most of them are like military related. Maybe like The Division or some shit like that is kind of similar. That might be what that one is. I can't remember. Been a long time since I played it. They just made a movie about it. I never watched the movie, honestly. Like I said, movies have kind of sucked. Made a video about that a little while ago, but I guess there's people out there that think, and at least maybe not the Civil War portion of things, where they're like, I think a Civil War would be a good idea to break this country up and we basically hit a hard reset on the country or something, and run a war really quick. And like, what are you gonna do? Fucking purge your ideological opponents and shit like that? I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know what they think, but I think the more common thought is like a national divorce scenario where it's like, you people over there think this way, we think this way. Fuck you guys. We're just gonna break off. Basically, states seceding from the union or some shit like that. And if you remember correctly, that's exactly what happened when the first Civil War kicked off. So I don't know why they think it would be any different if states decided to just break off and do their own thing completely. The federal government's not going to let that fly. So a war is going to start one way or the other, whether it's like a federal war versus the states or something like that. I think that all counts. That falls under the Civil War umbrella. But I know one thing's for sure. It would fucking suck. So you won't ever hear me rooting for that shit ever. You don't want that to happen. I don't know if you got to get that through your head. I think most people that are fucking got two brain cells to rub together inside your fucking noggin over there, you know that a civil war would be a fucking terrible thing. and it's not something to wish for. And honestly, I think even if you're pushing for a national divorce or whatever you want to call it, even if you call it peaceful, I don't think there's no such thing as a peaceful national divorce. You want to tell me like Texas, like a bunch of the southern states, along with some of the northern, like more conservative states, just break off? So maybe like literally the center of the country, like Texas, Arkansas, Kansas, Montana, the Montanas and the Dakotas and all that shit, just all decide they're breaking off and basically forming their own country, are going to remain as states and be like, fuck you guys, we're not going to listen to your rules, we're doing our own thing. You think for 1 second they would let that fly? Nah, negative. And that scenario is going to get hairy real fucking quick. But I mean, it's a fun thought experiment, I think. I don't know, I've mentioned in other videos, I'm from Ohio. I mean, we got Columbus, Cleveland, and Cincinnati, which are like big blue cities that have all a big chunk of the population in them, and then the rest is just pure conservative, whatever you want to call it, fucking MAGA country for all I care. Like, this is, I mean, where I'm from, like where I actually live, is about as conservative as it gets. I mean, it's always like that. It's, you go out in rural, it's going to hit conservative. You go into cities, it's going to be more liberal, whatever, Democrat. And that's where the divide line, I guess, is what they think is going to happen. But the problem is, if we run through this little thought experiment in like 2 seconds, my initial thought would be, I don't know how it happens. Like I said, they made that movie. The map they made no fucking sense in my mind. They were like Texas and California were on the same side. I don't know how I don't even know what the main reason, like the war in that one started, like what their reasoning was for like the kickoff that started it. But I think in reality, a real reason it would start would be like the national divorce idea. A couple states decide the federal government's getting too fucking handsy, taking too much power, upping taxes too much, basically has too much power, so they say, fuck that, we're out. We're no longer part of the union. We're seceding and we're going to do our own thing as a state. I think people talk about Texas doing it all the time because Texas is big as shit, and Texas was its own country for a little while, as far as I understand it, historically. Before they joined, they were like the Republic of Texas or whatever. So, say something like that happens. I mean, if I'm talking about my own state, I don't know if you know anything about Ohio, but like I said, we got 3 big cities basically on a diagonal across the whole state. Columbus in the dead center of the state, Cincinnati in the southwest corner, Cleveland in the northeast corner-ish. And in my mind, if something like this happened, and we're just taking it state by state even, I mean, if you want to say you broke it up by like conservative states and like liberal states or some shit like that, if just say the political situation in the United States just got worse and worse and worse, so the divide just gets bigger and bigger until they're like, fuck it, we don't want anything to do with you people anymore, we're breaking off and doing our own thing. And it was just red versus blue states or something like that. It's really blue versus red in cities versus rural. And the problem is, one, obviously nobody wants this shit to happen because it'd be fucking horrible. Your life would literally just go to shit. Your standard of living would fucking fall so fast. Electricity goes out after a little while. Like, I mean, you can't even imagine how bad it would be with just like a quick glance. I'm sure you can go find a YouTube video that breaks down like what a scenario, what they think would happen. But my simplest case thing would be, you're not going to have any gas, you're not going to have any electricity. The problem is going to be your food and shit like that. And like I said, I live in the middle of fucking nowhere, Ohio, rural Ohio. Farm field. I'm looking out the window at cornfield, soybeans, trees, and barns. Phantom Fireworks billboard. So there's food out here where I'm at, and like I said, it's cornfields. It's feed corn. I'm sure it's not sweet corn or anything like that. But around where I'm at, I mean, people got chickens and shit. My mom's got chickens and a fucking horse and animals, and there's like apple trees and stuff like that. Your problem is going to be this. If you think for 1 second that a civil war is a good idea, just think about how much food you have in your vicinity that you could get without going to a store to pick it up. Because that shit's going to go away instant. I mean, it's going to be like when hurricanes hit Florida and shit, where they just clear the grocery stores out and then it's never getting refilled because the highways and shit are all going to be shut down. And like I said, this is a fun topic to talk about if you're just sitting there bullshitting around and like thinking of how you would try to handle it, whatever. I encourage you to do the thought experiment. Sit down with some of your friends and fucking what would you do? What's what's your first week look like after they say I don't know, Texas? I'm trying to think of the most like conservative states recently. Like, I know Ohio went hard that way. It's like Indiana, Texas, Kentucky, all of these the more southern states, the Carolinas, West Virginia, Florida, Georgia. Basically, the Midwest to Texas to Florida, and some of the Carolinas all break off, and then you got all the East Coast states would be blue, and the Midwest is mostly red, and then the West again is blue, where you got Cali and Oregon and Washington and stuff like that, Nevada. If you did that, all the food comes from the Midwest, and well, I guess just the mid. I don't know. They call Kansas the Midwest. I don't even know. Breadbasket. That's where all the food's coming from. So every big city basically is going to run out of food, and I think that's the simplest thing to think about. Food and water. You're going to run out of food, and if the electricity goes off for any reason, if your giant power plant that's provides electricity to your city and the surrounding area isn't getting like coal trucked in, because they're still probably running off coal. I know we have a couple nuclear power plants in Ohio, but if they're running off coal, they're going to run out of coal. And when they can't ship it in from West Virginia or where the fuck they're getting it from, wherever we mine coal in the United States these days, your fucking electricity is going to go off. And that means your water's going off. So you got no food, no water. You're in a city with a couple million people, jammed asshole to elbow, you're fucked. Even the people in the country, in the rural areas, are fucked. And that's if they might have, like I said, got some chickens or some shit that can eat bugs and turn it into food for you. Or a renewable food source, and you know how to grow some food in your backyard, got a garden or something like that, some greenhouses. And I mean, that's kind of what we got going on out here. I live in town, what we call town, but I mean, I live in a one stoplight town. There ain't no town to it. I can walk to the nearest cornfield or something like that. It'll take me maybe 5 minutes to get to a agricultural field. So I mean, I live in the country. I'm out here with the good old country boys and shit. And if you're in a city, you're fucked. And I would like to know what you would think, honestly. Like, if you're watching this video right now, if you're living in a city, just be realistic with yourself and think how much food you got in your house, one, and then how long you think it's going to last. I mean, and I think this is the path those people go down that are like, not preppers, but like, hey, you just buy some canned goods and shit. And I don't even think that's a bad idea. Just in case there's a fucking tornado or something, it might be nice to have some canned food just in case. But I can see how people go down this path. They think this way. Excuse me. And they go down this path of like, what the fuck would happen? Especially if you have a family. Me, like I said, I made it in other videos. I talked about it. I'm about to have a kid, and my wife. It's like I am responsible for them at this point. So it's like, to do some shit like that, not that bad of an idea in my mind. Like I said, I'm living in an apartment. It wouldn't take me very long to be like, hey, stash up a week worth of canned goods just in case something ever happened. I mean, these things happen. Civil War doesn't happen. Hopefully it doesn't happen. Fuck, I mean, I don't know. People act like it keeps getting worse and worse. Like I said, I don't think it's that bad out here, especially not yet. I don't think we're Civil War levels of bad yet, but it'd be nice to go back and maybe read some historical texts and see what the people thought right before the Civil War kicked off, if they thought it was heated enough for it to actually go down. Because I don't know. I'm torn on that. It's either bullshit, it's not going to happen, or I mean, we're one step of like one bad situation happening from kicking it off, and I mean, you could be at that point at all times. But my main reason that I don't think it'll happen is because, like I said, I mean, the amount of people that would basically die almost instantly when they run out of food and water would be insane. All the highways are going to be shut down. All the travel is going to be shut down. Your phone's going to be off. You're fucked, dude. It's going to be so bad. And then my other thought is, who the fuck is willing to fight a war right now? Back then, like I said, you could get into the reasons why you think they fought or why they fought historically, blah, blah, blah. But, hey, at minimum, you can say they had some motivation, okay? Right now, I don't think most people have the motivation. I mean, worst it could get, maybe some kind of like weird, terrible terrorist attack or something. Somebody does something crazy trying to like make a point. But a true war where like, I mean, nowadays it's obviously different. Back then I think Civil War was more guerrilla tactics, but still, they were still fighting like armies all dressed the same. If you hit a Civil War these days, I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it'd be purely like regional weird conflict. It'd be crazy. It'd be insane. Somebody make a good video game about it, man. That'd be a fire video game if you did it right and good enough. But the motivation isn't there. I mean, the motivation isn't there to do regular shit. People won't even get out their fucking fat ass off the couch and go work out. Like, what, you think they're gonna get up and fucking go pick a gun up and go to war? I mean, I know some people that would definitely say they would, but hey, I mean, talk's cheap, right? You think they're actually gonna do some shit like that? I don't want any part of that. I'll be straight up. I don't want any part of it. I love guns. I love shooting. I love fucking whatever you want. I got firm beliefs, and I believe in the shit that I say. But it would take a lot for me to be like, all right, motherfucker, we're going to war over this shit. I'm going to go get a gun and fucking go fight some. I mean, that's crazy. Like, hopefully, we never get to that point. I don't want to see it. You shouldn't want to see it. These fucking dumbasses on Twitter, on X, they better not want to actually see it. Like I said, I think they're just talking out their ass. I don't think they're being for real. But I mean, this is the most I've ever heard somebody talk about a civil war happening. So I don't know. Who knows? Maybe the next 9/11's around the corner that can bring the country back together, and we can all forget our differences and go fight a pointless war in Iraq. I'll catch you guys tomorrow.